All right, so to make this show legit, I got to introduce you, Jimmy. For those of you who don't know, Jimmy is the pitching coach at JMU. And also I got Maddie as my co-host, which is awesome. I went to Bosco with Maddie. We played college ball at Stack. Maddie also coached in college. He was like you. He's like a pitching guy, did all the recruiting, so it's perfect to have him on this show. But, I mean, just to give me a little bit of what's going on, like, how has this COVID affected what's going on with, your schedule and everything, with what you're doing? And, I mean, what are some of the things you're doing right now to just stay proactive? Like, what can you do?
Honestly, it's just staying in constant communication with our players, whether that's FaceTime calls just to see them, texting, of course, which is what all them would rather do, or Snapchat or, snaps or whatever they call it. That we've done some like Zoom meetings with the team, things like that.
Well, that's good. And I saw you guys were –
What's that?
I saw you guys were 10-6 before this thing ended, which stinks because you guys got on a roll. I know you had to stumble out the gate to NC State, but then you guys started to like kind of heat up, and then for the seniors, I could only imagine how, the head coach had to give that speech to, hey, the season's done and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, of course, the worst part is the season getting canceled, but the worst part about the way it happened was we were here at our indoor getting ready for practice. We were told, as of right now, we're not going to play the weekend, but we're going to be allowed to stay on campus. We can still practice, basically keep the guys ready.
Yeah.
And so we go out, we practice. Our guys had thrown a couple shutouts this year. So our head coach does, the whole like pitcher's BP if you throw a shutout. So the guys had been, begging us, like, when are we going to do this? So we're like, oh, well, today's a good day. We're just doing a light practice. We don't even know what to expect.
Yeah.
So the pitchers actually took BP to end practice. We get inside, the guys are changing. And right before that, Coach Ike got a call on the field saying, hey, we're going to have to send everybody home, but the season's not canceled. We might still play. So we get the guys together. We tell them that, hey, you got to pack your stuff up, get out of the dorms, hopefully leave your apartments, go home. And then next thing you know, I see one of the seniors upset in the locker room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sitting there trying to tell him like, hey, we might still play, trying to think positive.
Yeah.
He shows me his phone of what the NCAA tweets out.
That it's done.
So they sent out more information other than what we knew as coaches.
Oh, gosh.
So just it made it that much worse to where now it's like we literally just had a team meeting saying, hey, stay ready.
A chance.
Yeah, like pitchers, keep throwing, simulate games, do whatever you can do. Hitters, stay ready. And then next thing you know, it's like, no, we're done.
Yeah. And Maddie, I got to go to you because you run a facility, Matt, up in Ramsey. And you work with a lot of high school guys too. How is that for the seniors? I mean, that's got to be devastating as well, right?
I mean, it was definitely hard. We work with a lot of like college, pro, and then the high school guys. So, we had a guy in AAA who was hitting 400. He was on fire. He was up at the big league club and, was probably going to get a shot. And, it was just hard because you watch them work all winter. You work with them for 3 months, that build up, especially the pitchers and the arms. Like, we do everything for 3 months to kind of get them ready to go, for that first tryout date. So like, it's tough because I think it's bigger than baseball, but it's almost like they got robbed of a lot of, different things, especially on the baseball side and, and other things too, prom and, all that stuff that gets attached with it. So it was tough, but I mean, just trying to be there for the kids the best you can, like college seniors, guys that are looking to play pro ball, I might come back for another year. So
a lot.
Wait a second.
Busy. Hold on. Wait a second. Jimmy, can you see me? Can you see my hat?
Yeah.
I know I got my beanie on for the draft, but what the heck is behind Matt on the door? I see. Is that –
What's that?
Is that is that Tiger King? What is that?
Hat, dude, this hat is awesome. Did you watch Tiger King? Swept the nation. You got to see this. Hold on.
Oh my God! Wait a second. We're gonna make Maddie wear that the rest of the pod today. I got a question though, Jimmy. I saw your wife posted something that glass shattered in the house this morning.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I need to hear this. From one father to another, the kids must have woke up. Like, this must have been horrible.
So our son was already awake. My wife was awake. I passed out on the couch last night. Just, I went from reading to watching a movie. Next thing I know, I'm waking up this morning to the biggest, loudest noise ever in our house. Like, louder than any kid screaming in our home.
Oh, God.
Basically, where we store our glasses in the kitchen, there's 3 levels. The top level,
Jesus.
She wasn't even in the cabinet. She was at the fridge, and next thing you know, it's just 10, 15, I don't know, however many glasses and mugs fall, spray across the whole kitchen. They end up in both parts of the sink, on some of our equipment up top, all on the floor, underneath, inside of that, like.
Thank God you're not a deep sleeper. Could you woke up and you just walked in there on glass? It would have been like Home Alone when the guy walks on.
Well, I am anybody that's, spent the night at our place or on the road. I don't wake up.
That was something else.
Like anything ever. But
oh my God.
That was so loud. It instantly woke me up. I jumped up and freaked out. I thought something.
That's what I do. I'm a social media craze. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, Jimmy's not going to come on the show with this. He probably flipped out. He's like, Jesus. All right. So we could probably do this all day, but we got to do this for the kids. Pretty much Fungo Talk. Obviously we're in lockdown here and Maddie and I work with little leagues. And, one day I was just kind of thinking hey, you know what? Being a college guy, I got to network and just be fun for something for these kids to watch. And, just to hear it from a source that they know and to have Maddie on here co-host would be pretty cool because we got a big following here in New Jersey. So, this is awesome. And thanks again for doing this. So we'll start it off with the first question from these kids. What are some of your favorite pitching drills? And do you use Rapsodo with your players?
Yes, we definitely use Rapsodo. We've had it for a couple years now. We went from the 1.0, paid for the upgrade for the 2.0. We use it a lot. Our pro guys, when they come back and work out here in the fall or winter, whether some of them were here finishing classes, because they were juniors when they got signed. But yeah, we use that a ton. I love it. I think it just gives you, it's like anything else. It's almost like playing a video game. You get instant feedback, visual feedback to go with it.
The biggest thing is that spin rate, right? Everyone wants to know, my curveball gets more depth and all that stuff.
Yeah, it tells you literally the amount of break that you're creating on the ball. As opposed to, especially, so say for a younger guy, you're not going to be doing pitch design with a 10 or 12-year-old. There's really no need. But,
of course.
But you can use it to your advantage as a coach because I think, and as we all know, you can have somebody throw a pitch and they're like, I didn't think it was that good. But you saw the whole thing as a coach. And you're like, no, I'm telling you, that was good. It broke late or it did the shape that we wanted, whatever. Well, this basically gives you that feedback for you to look at that player and say, no, look, it broke 12 inches in the direction we wanted it to break. You created the negative 12 inches of break, let's say.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's incredible to use. As far as drills go, honestly, I like anything that pertains to staying athletic and getting into your feet. So whether you want to say getting into your lower half. And what I mean by that is anything where, a step back and throw, a shuffle and throw, hop on one leg, throw, anything to get you where if this is your back foot, your drive foot, it is fully secured into the ground. Toes, middle, and heel are in the ground in order to generate force,
And that's perfect because I feel like with a lot of the younger guys, especially that I work with in Little League, right, that's the biggest thing is just having them use their lower half. So those drills are great. I'm not going to teach a little kid, hey, a 9-year-old, hey, Jimmy, let's get that hip hinge going. He'll be like, what?
Right.
What is that? Like hip hop or something? So,
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing is, like you said, just doing things to stay in your legs. The hop drill is great. So, no, that's awesome. Maddie, what do you got? You got to add on that or?
No, I mean, I agree completely. I think, too many times, people are trying to turn, pitchers into, non-athletes. So, we do a ton of the hop stuff. I mean, if we can get them in our lower half, that's key. Every scout is going to tell you, ground force connectivity is the biggest thing they look for because, a lot of people are reading different things online and, trying to get down the mound as fast as they can. But if they can't control their body and, their foot's in the air when they're throwing the baseball, then they're going to break down. So, we do a lot of that. We do a lot of the Velo Pro, which I'm sure, Jimmy, you'd used, just to kind of keep that ground force. So, I love that stuff with the athletes, like, especially with the pitchers. Like, my biggest thing, like, kind of like Jimmy, I wouldn't really say drills, more just, the focus of different things. If we're in a flat ground, if we're doing, if it's like 2 days after our bullpen, what's our focus in that flat ground? Is it mindless or, are we trying to compete and, spin breaking ball for strike, spin breaking ball 1-2 count, like, just trying to get these guys to compete and understand that, in their bullpens, you can try and compete. You can try and be a perfectionist and throw, good 1-2 pitches. Too many times that extra work just gets mindless, No,
that's true. That's true. And for Jenny, how many guys, like with your staff, how many would you say are like good athletes? Like, is that something you look at when you recruit your guys and stuff? Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say the majority are very good athletes. You're always going to have that 1, 2, or 3 guys out of the 16, 17 pitchers we have that I wouldn't consider the most athletic. Nothing against them, but, maybe they were a PO for all of high school or since 8th grade or something like that. And some of them still hit on their high school teams, especially if they're coming from not the best high school. But, they go play travel ball and they're just a PO, which I'm not against it in a sense of I'm not going to hold it against the kid. But, I would prefer.
Now, how many do you think played at multiple positions in high school? A decent amount of them played more than –
Yeah, same thing, most of them. I mean, but, this year was a little different. Well, I guess the last 2 years were a little different than any other because each of the last 2 seasons we had 2 of our 3 weekend guys that were just one-sport athletes in high school. And they were both – well, technically all 3 of them. One was the same guy. One was a draft pick last year. One was a junior that just got that role this year. They all were one sport. Actually, one of them didn't even hit in high school, was literally just a pitcher only, probably from the time he was like 10. But
throwing 90 at 10. All right, you're not doing anything else.
Right. But at the same time, you can tell, like, with those guys, I think that's where it comes into play where they need even more time on the mound than the kids that are extremely athletic. Gotcha. And not to, like, to Matt's point, like, not to create them to be robotic, but to keep them away from being robotic, because if all they do is play catch and they're not very athletic, I think they tend to get on the mound and it's like step 1, 2, 3, lift leg, 4. And it's, no, man, like, let's keep it moving. Like, we use the core velocity belt a good amount. I mean, honestly, I'd probably use it 10 times more than we do if, the rules would permit as far as time.
Yeah.
We use it a ton. And I just think engaging your core and lower half in something, and sometimes for those not as athletic guys, I think it's even more beneficial because, it's almost like taking a 10-year-old and holding down their back foot. Like people have been doing that forever when guys hit, is like a little, like, no, man, stay in the ground. I've seen people do it with pitchers. And it's like, well, if you're using this belt in order to fight the resistance, you have to stay in the ground. If not, the thing would just yank you.
I think my dad saw that once at PBI. That's like the only place that was open when I was a kid. And I think he saw something like that. I remember we were in the backyard. He held my leg down. And on my follow-through, I just like almost knocked him out cold.
Yeah.
That was the last time we did that drill.
Yeah.
So the advancements of technology is just incredible that these kids have, and not only the resources of all that stuff with the belt and Rapsodo, but like just being able to go on like YouTube or like go on Diamond Demos or go on Instagram and just you could literally get everything, at the touch of a hand. So, all right, let's get to this next question. This is a good one too, because I got an issue with this. A lot of my guys, I'm afraid to pitch inside because I don't want to hit a kid. How could I fix that?
The main thing that we do is, one, getting guys to understand that if we hit a guy, it's not a big deal. Don't treat it like a walk. A walk to me is either you're nibbling, you're not being aggressive, you're not getting ahead, you're not doing all the things that we preach to our guys. You're basically becoming defensive on the mound, or it's a lack of focus because, if you're a pitcher at this level, you can throw strikes. So when it comes to pitching inside, what we do is, one, try to get that fear of if you hit him, you hit him, not the end of the world. And the other thing is when we throw bullpens, we use those plastic stand-in, I forget what
those dummies.
Yeah.
They're like portable hitters, I think they're called. We put those in. And something I've done at times, depending on the guy, so like if there's a particular kid that's like, I'm scared to death of going in, I don't want to hit a guy, whatever, we put a dummy in each box. So now no matter what side of the plate you're working on, they're all inside.
Yeah.
So that way you're trying to train basically your eyes and your mind to focus on the glove and the spot. And, like if we're going inside, in our rule of thumb for 90% of our pitchers is it's okay if you miss up for other, reasons. But if we go in, you can miss up. Yeah. So if we're going into these batters, basically they know we're looking to hit these zones, but you can be anywhere in these zones. Just stay out of the middle and stay off here. So basically we're working in this direction and not, missing east to west.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
Now, I just interviewed Coach Reed of Florida Gulf Coast last week, and he was talking about when he works with his infielders, how they're just not going through the reps. They're trying to really do these things with intent and try and build muscle memory. Is that the same thing with like you guys? Like when you do this stuff, it's not like, guys are they're really focused on like, hey, making it competitive and trying to really focus that. So in the game, it becomes almost second nature.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, every pen we're throwing, we're working on something. Every time we play catch, outside of the, even when our guys are getting loose, it's not just go out there and lackadaisical throws. There's a reason why they're doing the throws they're doing.
Yeah.
A lot of our guys, I would say more than half have a series of warm-up things that they do, whether it's plyo throws or just using the baseball and playing catch with somebody. They do certain drills that then carry over to the mound. So when they get on the mound, the entire thing is done for a purpose. It's not anything in the sense of like, let's just constantly hit this spot and like that way you can repeat it.
Yeah.
Or so we're hitting that spot because we're trying to dominate the inside part of the plate.
Yeah. I think that's the only issue probably with the younger guys is like you'll do a lesson probably, right? Get that work in, and then a week goes by and it's like you need to kind of go home and have something set up and try and get find a way to get those reps in, or else you're never going to get comfortable. It's like going to school once a week, right? You're not really going to retain anything.
Right. No, I think that's a good point. I mean, back when I coached in high school and gave lessons, basically full time. That was everything I did. That was probably my biggest concern with all the kids. And most of them worked really, really hard. I would say 99% loved baseball. That's why they were doing it. There's always that, 1% where I feel like there might have been a little push. But,
Mom, really? Come on.
But that was my biggest thing with them was, listen, you can keep coming back and I'll keep going over the same things for the next 2 months. And basically I could record myself, press play. You can hand me your money and I can say, good job, like I did last week. Or you can go work on this stuff for the next 6 days. That way, hopefully within 2 or 3 weeks, we're moving on to something new.
Yeah.
We're working on a new pitch, or we're working on pickoffs, or whatever the case may be. But if you constantly come to me once a week and that's the only pitching you do and the only time you work on it, then we're going to be stuck on this for probably 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
And to me, I think people just end up wasting money that way. It's not
Yeah.
so much the person giving the lesson as it is the kid taking it home and not putting it to use.
Yeah. I just don't think people truly understand how long of a process baseball really is. It's like, yeah, I want my kid to get better at this. It's like, it could take months, to really get that foundation down to work into something. You got younger kids that come in and it's like, yeah, we want to, go from the tee right to like throwing overhand. And it's like, you got to really work the tee, maybe a side toss to a front toss. I mean, there's so much that you have to get that foundation in before you can get those next steps. So, no, that was good. All right, here's another question we got. Well, we got a 2-part question. I like this. How important is mental makeup when you recruit your guys? And if you could choose one MLB pitcher to be the ace of your staff, who would it be?
As far as recruiting wise, I mean, the mental makeup to me is easily more important than anything. I mean, if something, even what may seem small to people, if we bring a guy in on a visit, and we've done this before, sadly, we don't like doing it, but we've done it where we're all ready to go. We're ready to make an offer, and they come in, they sit down with us and our head coach in a meeting. We're talking about everything else under the sun with the school and the team and the program. And if that kid or that young man speaks in a certain way to his mom or dad, or is just not being very respectful, they always are to us.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's crazy to me to see it, but they'll openly be disrespectful to their mom or dad when answering a question, let's say. Like a lot of times mom and dads will want to ask more about academics, of course, the baseball side. And there'd be some times where, like, a parent may ask a question that I'm sure that 18-year-old is like, well, I know the answer. Why are you asking?
Yeah.
Which we all have done with our parents. But I think for them to noticeably do it or say it out loud, it's basically, it turns you off. I mean, you end up thinking a little less of that person. So that, I think, plays a part into the whole thing when it comes to mental makeup, because I know our guys, we talk about it all the time. Like, well, who do we want on the mound in the 9th up a run? Like, he better be mentally tough. And hopefully we have more than one option for that guy, because we're not going to do what a big league club does and throw a guy 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to close Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're never going to do that. So we better have a backup option. Or
Now, before you give me your best MLB pitcher that you'd want with that mental makeup, I mean, it's so tough right? I mean, you guys are so busy. There's only so many guys you can get to see in the summertime. How big is, like, word of mouth? Because that's something you can't see in a perfect game, or, you know what I mean, on the computer when you're just looking up their metrics.
No, it's huge. I mean, the summer ball coaches, the high school coach, like, I don't think I've ever since I've coached at Siena, recruited somebody without speaking to the high school coach. I think more times than not, the high school coach probably knows the player better than anybody.
Yeah,
no
especially even a guy like Murata, right, who's in the facility, who's coaching in high school, right? You're with these kids a lot, so I mean, to be able to reach out to a college coach and be like, hey, I'm sure Maddie's done it. If he could, talk on that too as well after, because we'll give Murata a chance to give his MLB guy and talk about it too. But I want to know, who's your MLB guy? Who's the horse?
I don't know. I thought about that. I saw when you sent a couple of the questions. I don't know. There's so many guys to pick from, but
yeah, there is too many.
Growing up, to be honest, it's probably so fresh in my mind because all these things going around on Facebook and Twitter with, like, name your 5 favorite players. And
I already did that.
Living in Virginia, we get the Masson Network, so the Orioles, even though they're not so great right now, but they're always on TV. So the classic games are on, and I'm watching I think it was 95, 97. It might have been 97. The the game at Camden Yards that Mike Messina basically
Oh
dominated
yeah,
the Mariners.
the Moose.
To me, it's him. I mean, growing up an Oriole fan and seeing what he did for them, and then doing it basically on an even bigger stage in New York. I mean, I don't see how you would ever want somebody. I guess technically, numbers wise, there might be somebody a little better, but he did it. He did it, in the best division in the American League, which is always the pitch in back then. And he did it for 15 years, and then
that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm sure my clients, these young kids, will be like, "Who's Mike Messina?"
It better not be.
I'm gonna give mine, and then I'm gonna have Maddie. I'm gonna give him the floor on this one. I gotta go with CC Sabathia. I mean, I just love the guy because I grew up watching him. A, I mean, I know him from this area, and I just love who he is. But B, it's just like, I mean, I saw the one game with the Tampa Bay Rays where he hit that guy, and I think he lost out on like $1 million or something like that, his bonus or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like he's the guy who wants the ball. He wants to be the leader, and he's the first guy in there with a scruffle. Like, he is like the ultimate team guy, and he's just like, hey, give me the ball. Like, I don't care. I think that's like what you want, is that fearless leader that not only could talk it, but backs it up when he goes out there. And I love that. And especially to go from a guy who's throwing 99 or 97 from the left, you're blowing it by, and now you're throwing 88, and you can still go out there with confidence and reinvent. It just shows that, like, mentally you got to be tough to adapt. And I love that. So that's my guy.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Yeah. All right, Maddie, bring us home.
Come on, man. I'm a longtime Yankees fan, and this is going to be easy for me. It's Mariano, without a doubt for me. I mean, you saw it with the Houston Astros. When you know a pitch is coming, you usually do damage. But with him, every guy in the world knew what was coming. And, to still do it on the biggest stage, that was big for me. So I've always been a big Mo fan, that quiet confidence, come in and shut the door. I mean, nothing better there.
I love that. That's awesome. All right, since we touched on mental makeup and talk about guys that throw hard, this is a good question. How big a role does using weighted balls in bands play? And how does long toss work into that? And I know from Fordham, you were big on the weighted balls. I know those guys, we were in the gym and guys were, doing their running throws with the weighted balls. So that was something when I was growing up, it really – I'd probably blow my arm out doing that, but watching them do it now, it seems like everyone's kind of getting on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more important stuff would probably be the band work and the long toss before even considering weighted balls. What's the age you think to use? I'm not going to tell a 10-year-old to start doing the weighted balls, right? I mean, there's got to be an age limit for that. I think, that's where I think it gets tricky. I mean, you're probably
the strength and all that.
Yeah, you're probably not going to take a 10-year-old and put them on a plyo-care routine program because they're 10, and not necessarily for physical, strength. It's more so, I think, because, they're still figuring out what they're doing. So they could pick up a football and throw it, and that's the same thing. That's throwing a weighted ball.
It's true.
I'm sure they pick up a soccer ball and chuck it at their friends once in a while. I mean, it's, you don't break your arm by doing it. I think that's probably the biggest misconception that people haven't learned enough about or read enough of these studies that have been done, is like, just because you throw something that's not 5 ounces does not mean you're going to get hurt. You could do it right now, even if you haven't thrown. Like in my case, I haven't thrown a ball since the guys left 5 weeks ago. I guarantee I could walk in our indoor, pick up a 1-pound ball and throw it into the wall, and I'm not going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Because basically your arm is going to adapt to throwing that amount of weight. But when it comes to the band stuff and the long toss, I think that's probably, at least in my mind, more key to arm strength, velocity, throwing endurance, being able to go 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. The biggest thing I see with band stuff, and especially like you said, since, most of this is geared towards younger players, is I'm sure most of the guys you guys work with, or, like in your case, they're probably using like the J bands.
Yeah.
Right? So they'll around your wrists and stuff. And I've missed our guys all the time. I actually said this to a friend the other night doing one of these was, it's probably the number one thing that bothers me the most when I go to a game and I see a kid hook it to the fence and they just grab a hold and they start doing them. And when they don't understand why it goes around your wrist, it almost tells you like, we really don't even understand why you're doing the bands in the first place. So why are you doing them? Are you just doing them because your buddy does them? You don't have to. Like Mike Messina, I don't think did bands growing up when he was 10. But if you're choosing to do it to get a head start on things, I think it's great. But you have to understand that you're strapping it around your wrist in order to keep your hands loose. And you're keeping your hands loose because it keeps all your joints, all your muscles loose. And you're using it to not only get loose pre-throwing, but you're also using it to build all the small muscles and everything else, as far as your rotation in your shoulder goes, your elbow, all your joints. You need to be loose when you do that. And that's the whole premise behind the wrist straps, is take the 10 seconds, strap it on your wrist, and then do your stuff. And that way your hands are loose. I think the easiest way to understand it is anytime you grab a hold of something, think of it more like weightlifting. Now you're working.
It makes sense 100%.
Now you're working your big muscles.
And I'm learning something new too, because I was the guy I was lazy. I was like, I'm not going to put on the wrist straps. I'll just grab it and do it. Right. So I'm guilty.
Right. No, I mean, a lot of people
red-handed caught.
No, a lot of people do. And it's not. Again, I'm not saying it's going to physically hurt them, but
J-Bands has a science to why they did that.
Right, and it's 100%. You're not doing it for the reasons that they were designed for. If you grab it.
Now, what about the long toss? I mean, is this something kids need to do every day, or is this like a break it up? They got a rest period?
Honestly, I think that the man who puts it basically to almost like a common sense standpoint for me is Alan Jaeger, who came up with the JVs and everything else. And, he didn't invent long toss. He'll be the first to tell you. I mean, people have been long tossing way before he was around. I think, he was always the guy, always the advocate for it. Even 20, 25 years ago when maybe it was like half the people agreed, half the people didn't. There's still to this day people that say, don't throw a ball over 180 feet. Well, if it's 180 for a 25-year-old, then what is that for a 10-year-old? Like, what's okay? And I think the way he puts it to me makes perfect sense. And I've kind of always stuck with it is your arm's a breathing, living thing. So kind of let it live, base your throwing and your long toss off how you feel. So if you feel great and the more you throw that day, the more you're like, hey, Matt, back up, man. All right, keep throwing. Hey, Matt, all right, let's do another 20 feet. And if you feel good enough, then let's long toss. Long toss to me is full distance on an arc, not at 100%. I think, again, the misconception is just because you long toss at full distance does not mean you have to pull down throw on the way in. You can. You can, and if you're built up to that point, like in our guys' case right now, I would say all of them but 2 are built up to that point, then any day that you go full distance, sure, pull down, whether it's 12, 14, 16 throws on your way in. We kind of, Alan Jaeger has definitely like a great throwing manual for pro guys, college guys, little kids, everything that I think is exceptional to go off of. But the only difference that I would say where I don't tell our guys to just go off how they feel every day is after they've taken a break. Yeah. So if they took the winter off for basketball and they played basketball through November, December, January, and they just get back into throwing mid-January. So they took 8-9 weeks off of throwing. Our rule of thumb is build up for double the amount of weeks that you took off. So if you took off for 8, you got to build up for 16. Doesn't mean you can't be on a mound before that 16-week period, but it means I would not, prefer you to get in a game.
Yeah, it makes sense. I like that.
That's why, like, when our guys, when they are in high school and they're playing basketball, we try to remind them, like, hey, you don't really need to take 8 to 10 weeks off of throwing probably. So maybe the back half of your basketball season, just start playing light catch 60 to 100 feet every other day. That way you don't need as much time to build up to start increasing your distances when basketball ends. Yeah. So really you only took 4 weeks off. Now for the next 4 or 5 weeks of your season, you're doing light catch. So now by the time your season's over, you can basically go right into it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That was awesome. Now, this is a good question that I like, that I want to know too. What does a day of practice look like for the pitchers at JMU? Run us through, get to the field, what's going on?
We have a designated start time like anybody else for practice. So let's say it's 2:15. I would say half of our players half our pitchers probably have an extra 10 or 15 minutes more than the other half of like corrective exercises or different stretches that they do that just takes longer than some other guys. So they might get there at, 1:45 to get their cleats on and get ready because they need to start doing their stuff at 2, and all the other pitchers can start their stuff at 2:15. So basically we go through all that type of stuff, whether, for a younger guy, it would be like a static stretch. Static stretch. We go from that to doing our dynamic warm up. So anything where the heart gets moving, a little bit of
ladders or whatever, all that stuff.
Things like that. Like our hitters use hurdles to start doing hip mobility stuff. We have a hip mobility routine that our pitchers do. So we go through the hip mobility and then the dynamic. And then after dynamic, we go into the bands. I would say all of our guys, if we had 18 pitchers this year, I bet 16 of them used J bands, maybe 2 didn't. Out of that 18, I would say 10 or 11 of them have a series of plyo drills that they do, plyo ball throwing drills they do. Mm-hmm. The other ones would go right from bands to playing catch. Those guys that have the plyo drills, they usually pair up together because they
now the catch, are they on their own, or you tell them, hey, get to 25? I remember at Fordham you did something like that. We back these guys up a certain depth, and then you kind of bring it you let the ponies run and they throw as what they feel.
Yeah, they basically throw based off what they feel with me kind of being like a help to them, I guess is what I would call it. Like a guy may ask, hey, I long tossed yesterday and I pulled down. I don't want to take off today. I want to go light. You good if I just go 90 feet? I'm like, yeah, of course. I mean, as much as we go over it, they still ask at times like, hey, is this okay?
Yeah.
Or, hey, I haven't stretched it out in a while, but I'm still feeling a little sore from my game 3 days ago. What do you think? And it's like, well, yeah, let's, back it up nice and easy. And maybe by the time you get to 90 feet, you feel great. Maybe you don't, figure it out as you go. But probably the thing you're thinking about at Fordham was during our individual time. So we get 5 weeks, as you guys know, we get 5 weeks of indies, which is small group workouts in the fall. Mm-hmm. So if we're in that part of our fall season, practice is very different than it is for team practice. Because with team practice, of course, you're going to have some sort of defensive work in almost every day.
Yeah.
Double plays, picks, PFPs, bunt plays, first and thirds, all that stuff. So we wait until all of our pitchers throwing is done. Some of them may have short boxes that day or flat grounds they want to do. There might be a bullpen or 2, which we try to do those beforehand so we're not running into practice time. So then once all of our pitchers are finished throwing, the hitters have already finished their bunting, they're throwing, they're warming up. And then we all meet at the infield to do our defensive stuff. But during the individual time, like you were mentioning, where we almost did it. Now I don't do it as, I guess, regimented would be the word.
Yeah.
We still do times of the year like that, where it's like, hey, these 3 weeks, you're on a long toss plan and you're going to pull down Mondays and Fridays. Wednesdays, you're still going to stretch it out and you're going to play catch Tuesday and Thursday. So we're going to throw 5 days in a row. Saturday or Sunday, you're going to have to play catch on your own because we're not allowed to practice. And then we're going to get back after it on Monday. So during that time at Fordham, it was more so hey, we're long tossing.
Yeah.
So sometimes guys just get almost like we're doing right now. You get talking so much,
Yeah.
like, hey man, back up. Like,
Yeah.
don't forget we got to throw 320 feet today is our plan. So you're stuck at 90. What do you do?
No,
But
that's good. God, I'm glad I'm done playing because I'm exhausted already just hearing it.
yeah.
Maddie, what do you got? What do you got to say on that? I mean, your coaching has suffered too. Is this something that for your guys it's very similar, and you take what you've learned at Felician in college and bringing that? Is that something also that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with Jimmy. I think, early on, it's easy to want to, kind of cookie cut and, do one regiment for these different guys. But I mean, they're all different animals. They all have different routines. So like, I basically did exactly what Jimmy did where, listen, you'd kind of go off real events that happened. If he threw 3 days ago, he'd come to you and you'd kind of build that plan, versus trying to cookie cut and say, hey, we're going 180 feet because, like we know, you're going to get injured when your body gets shocked, so if I put on a plan for one of my arms to, long toss and, he's still sore, he's going to compensate. He might try and fly open to get the ball there. And, that's what you don't want to do. So as far as a routine standpoint, I mean, we're pretty much spot on with, what Jimmy's doing with, the hip mobility first, and then we'll go into our active, then we'll do our band work. And then depending on the age, we'll go plyo. But I mean, I think the weighted balls is probably the biggest thing that people really don't understand of why you use them. So like, just to clear that up for, maybe 2 minutes, because, even Jimmy said it, there's so many people that say, hey, this is the way, but, now they're putting 14-year-olds on it, 13-year-olds, that can't handle it. So, the reason for the overload, underload is, to make sure, like, as much as we want to accelerate, right? If my arm was a car brake, as much as we want to accelerate, we can only go as fast as we can stop. So, as we're doing the weighted ball stuff, like, we also have to work our decelerators, what's stopping us, because we're only as strong as that. So, what I see a lot with kids and, doing the weighted balls, they do a lot of the acceleration stuff, but there's really no decel. And if there's no balance, you're really going to break down. So, if you're a kid out there who's doing weighted balls, like, please make sure you know what you're doing. I know Jimmy kind of brought this up before. I feel like, they go into their bands and it's just like a race to get done. You're not teaching a routine that way. Like, I can't tell you how many kids go up to the bands and their hips are open 45 degrees. And now they're activating the inside of their shoulder versus the outside. So like, form is important. These little things matter. And, building the routine so that it can be yours, I think eventually at the end of the day, kind of gets you to that level, because if it's your routine and someone's not making you do it, I think you can go a lot further, in that sense. So, that's basically what we do with our athletes. Pretty much the same thing on the pitching side. But every day is different, and I think it depends, really on the athlete. But, everything we do is the full body assessment, so they're doing their correctives. And then once they do their correctives, they start from there. But I mean, we love the correctives. I think it's awesome, especially in this posture epidemic of kids playing video games and Fortnite all day.
I'm guilty looking at my phone all day. I'm telling you. Jeez. No, that was awesome, man. That was really good. Awesome stuff. Now this rolls right into it, Jimmy. How important is lifting for pitchers? And what do you guys like to do, with your guys? I mean, what's off season look like? What's in season look like? I mean, this is a big one too for a lot of kids that want to know, they want to keep working out, but, I think they need to be smart about it. And, with the in season stuff, these younger guys kind of want to know, right? Everyone wants to be jacked and get like this, but I think baseball strength is a lot different than beach body strength. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, our guys lift, they're lifting year round. In season, they go a little lighter. I wouldn't
but
say.
They're pretty similar to what their off season is.
Yeah, the off season is definitely heavier as far as the weight is concerned. But the amount of time they're spending in there, the weight and the reps just change a little bit. That's kind of the difference. Our strength guy does an incredible job, kind of changing it up a little bit. Between when we're in season in the fall, doing our full team practices, which counts inner squatting, compared to our individual time which nobody's pitching live in the game. So we can do a little bit more as far as go a little heavier. And most of what we do is nothing fancy. It's nothing that, if you watched our guys work out, you wouldn't be like, oh man, that looks so cool. It's basically they're squatting, they're deadlifting, they're benching, they're shoulder pressing.
So it's pure Rocky. We're not in Drago's lab with all the
yeah. No. I mean, the only thing that would compare to that would be using a device our strength guy has that gives like I don't know the exact term, but it basically gives you the explosion rate.
Oh, the force and
force
all that
plate,
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. It's like it's hooked up to the barbell as they squat up. So like if we do a max day, which our strength guy doesn't even love doing, we just do it because the guys love doing it.
Do they all get hyped and start yelling and smacking chalk on each other?
Yeah, they go insane doing it. But
hold on, just to give a picture of that for the kids out there. If they ever watched National, or what is it? Is it National Geographic? Is that the animal show?
Yeah.
Of just like the lions just going, like that's probably what the gym looks like, with guys all over each other. And
yeah, exactly.
I had to paint that in my head really quick. Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
I mean, we basically go through, again, they're hopefully going to go through their dynamic, when they're back home on their own, going through stuff on the winter. But, we'll do like a dumbbell split squat at different times to mix in away from the regular squat, an overhead press.
So is it your call to be like, hey, I want the focus to be a lot of legs, core, and shoulder. I don't want them to do chest, or do you or your full trust to, hey, this guy is in charge?
Yeah,
and
100%. No, I look at it the same way that our head coach lets me be in charge of the pitchers. He's the coach and he's in charge of the strength training.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I try to do with him, really the benefit here as opposed to everywhere I've been, is we have a strength coach that only has one fall, winter, and spring sport. So he's with us year round. He's only now.
That's important. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's still a lot of athletes for him, but it's not like some other places where maybe you have one strength coach for 20 sports or two coaches for 22 sports. So me and him try to stay in constant communication as far as that goes, because everybody's fall is a little different too. It's just like in the spring, we're going to have starters and relievers. So those relievers, they might do a light day and 2 medium days, and they might go a month without getting in an actual heavy day of lifting, where our starters get their heavy day in the day after their start. So he's constantly communicating with them and myself, and it's kind of all of us together. But as far as like the lifting, the reps, the type of lifts we do, that's 100% with him. I mean, I think there's maybe we're almost finishing our 5th year here. I think there's been one lift ever that I asked him, like, hey, could we maybe not do that? And that was the first year I was here. And like I told him, I said, listen, you're the one that's an expert in this, not me. I worry about the stress it could put on their elbows. It's like that. I forget what
the clean and jerk, the jerk, right?
Yeah, clean jerk. And
standing on a Bosu ball during a clean and jerk.
No, we don't do that. But doing it, I understand 100% that some of our guys will, without a doubt, be healthy and have no issues with that lift. Just like a lot of weird looking lifts that are out.
Yeah, I only asked that because I know it's how important it is to keep guys healthy. And you look at what happened to the Mets that one year. Everyone was breaking down and they were pointing the finger at the training staff. Now, the thing is with you guys, right, jobs are on the line. Like as a college coach, Maddie, and I know like a bad season could be huge, detrimental to. So you want to make sure that there's a lot of trust being built. So
100%.
No, that's why I had asked that. And I'll piggyback off that to Matt. I mean, since we're talking about also the youth sector too, and I know you have the facility, Matt, like what do you do with these young guys to work out, to build them up, to get to that level?
I mean, it really depends on the age, but I mean, if they're, more that high school level, then we'll do, a full body assessment. We'll find out their weaknesses, and then what we'll try and do is turn those weaknesses into strengths, just like what Jimmy does at JMU. we'll give them 10 minutes of corrective exercises that they do before they even start their lift. So, once they start their lift, like, we base the throwing and the lifting in different phases. So basically the rule of thumb is the more throwing they're doing, the less heavy their lifts is. So, the first phase might be they get out of fall ball, they just start training. That might be their heaviest lift phase. That'll last maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Then after that, they'll go and transition into more of their intermediate where, they're trying to move the bar fast. We're measuring their ground force. I mean, we basically measure, everything and track it. This way we can, kind of show them. And once they register with us, we show them, hey, this is where you started. This is where you're at now. It's just an easy way to kind of track it and monitor it. And then, once February hits and they're kind of full go, getting ready for March, that's where it turns into more of the athletic movement phases. We do a lot more med ball. We do a lot more fast twitch stuff.
So there's there's a ton that goes into this stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think
now a big question too, what's the youngest guy you've ever had come in that's like, hey, I want to start doing a program?
I mean, we've had guys come in as early as 7. It's, if you're going to take them or not. And, what we do with those guys is, we just get them active. We get them moving around,
just try and be athletic.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's really good for the kids is, we might throw the football around. We might do some different things, because at that age, it's too young to really do anything, but, there's nothing better than moving around. So, we never really turn too many athletes down.
Yeah. Awesome. Jimmy, is that the field behind you? That's a picture?
Yeah.
I love it.
They did the new turf this fall. So we tweaked our fall season in order for them to get out there and finish that before the winter hit.
That's awesome.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm sure the pro guys love coming back and seeing stuff like that. Who's the big name JMU guy?
Right now there's nobody in the big leagues. I think the last guy was a couple years ago. There was a kid, or I shouldn't say kid, there was a young guy that was in AAA with the Padres a couple years. He got drafted a couple years before we got here. He had got hurt and missed last season, though. He was playing multiple levels with Kennedy, with Brett.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they played together.
Best mustache, best facial hair when we were at Fordham.
Yeah.
I love Brett. Shout out to Brett wherever you are. I hope you see this. We're gonna have to clip this and tag him in it. I love Brett. And Brett, to go off topic, Brett actually he was in the show.
Oh, really?
I think he had a call up with the Padres and he actually pitched in a big league game.
Oh yes. No, I know he did that. I'm sorry. I thought you meant doing this with you.
Oh, he would never. He's too big. He's a big league man. Brett, if you hear me, don't big league me. Come on the show.
So 2 summers ago, we were doing a team camp here, and I get a text from Datoma, hey, have you seen Kennedy got called up? And I'm like, no, man, I've been on the field since 7 a.m. I haven't even looked at my phone.
Do your job, Rob. No.
And he goes, he's like, I'm going. Kev's going, I'm going. And I'm like, oh, God. So I look at our head coach. I'm like, I got to figure out. Apparently, he's going to pitch in Milwaukee in like 3 days. So basically, long story short, I figured out how I could find a cheap flight out of North Carolina, drive 3 hours down there just to fly out of there to go to Milwaukee, watch him pitch, and come home the next day. But I think he had, God, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 starts. Was doing well, was doing fine. But then last year had an injury, something minor in his leg that turned into a minor surgery, but the recovery time.
It takes a little longer.
Because again, with taking time off and it affecting his lower half, he had to be really careful, ramping back up with his arm.
Yeah.
So it took longer than you would assume. So he missed all of last season. So basically he was probably going to start this season in AAA, he said.
Yeah. But you still keep contact with a lot of your former guys and stuff like that. And
yeah. No, I hadn't talked to Brett in a while, but we were texting yesterday.
That's awesome.
Of all people, but no, I mean right now with our guys, it's just a handful of guys in the minor leagues. I mean, we had those guys get drafted a year ago, which was really cool.
Yeah.
I think
so. The title's open for the first guy to get in the show over there.
Yeah, over here. Yeah, I mean, gosh, we've luckily had at least one guy signed every year since we've been here. Hopefully that continues this year. I don't know. It's going to be tricky, especially if they only do 5 rounds. And
yeah,
a couple of our juniors are smart enough now that they get that year of eligibility back. So technically they're juniors again next year.
Yeah.
I think they're smart enough to know not to sign as a free agent for 10 grand.
Yeah. Be smart, do the right thing.
Yeah. They're going to come back if they don't get drafted. They're not going to sign like that, at least to our knowledge.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Some of the guys are doing really well though. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Maddie's been waiting for this all day. I promised him as the co-host, I'd give him his own segment at the end. So we call this the Murata Moneyball question. So Maddie, I'll let you take it away. This is it. This is the last. This is how we end the show.
All right.
All right, Jimmy. I'm a high school arm in New Jersey. I really like JMU. What is the easiest route, to get recruited, especially, down south? If I'm coming from up north, is it more the camp route? Like obviously, the travel circuit. What advice do you have, for a North Jersey kid who, may want to try and get in front of you at JMU?
I think a little bit of everything you just said. So playing legit travel ball where you're going to play in good tournaments, not just random tournaments, tournaments where it's going to give us a chance to not only see that one player, but see multiple players in one trip. That always helps us. Stay in constant communication, like through email. The biggest thing I always try to tell guys in their emails is you should always have a link to yourself, throwing a bullpen, or let's say it's a hitter, hitting in a cage, even if it's not game film, just because it gives us a reference point to always go back to.
Right.
Because they have to remember there's so many kids that are reaching out that we know the name. Like I guarantee I'm going to open my email today. There's going to be at least 5 or 6 guys. And I'm like, I know the name, but if there's nothing to go with it,
right,
I'm going to have to go searching through the other emails. So what I tell them to do is the same thing, like all of us in our email, we have a title underneath our name, whatever company or school we work for or whatever. Well, just put that in your title. Just put your YouTube link right there, your high school and your grad year, and that's your title because you are a student, you're a student athlete, you're trying to be recruited. So just put that in there. So that way, all it takes me is 2 seconds to click a button. I could watch 1 or 2 pitches and go, oh, that's right, I've seen this. Now I know who it is.
Right.
I think doing that in your email is important. Playing in good travel tournaments in the summer. But yeah, like you said, the camps are huge for us because our head coach is very big on having our entire staff at every single camp we've ever done. So, there's never a time that a kid can be in front of us at a camp. Let's say I've seen him and I like him and I want our hitting coach to see him and our head coach. And well, now he gets to hit in a cage with our hitting coach. He gets to communicate with him. He gets to come out of that cage and go, man, I like him. Like he was trying some stuff. He was good at it. And he wasn't really picking it up, but he was listening, man. He was into it. Or on the negative, this kid thinks he's got it all figured out. I'm just try something. He don't want to try anything. Or like in my case, I get to be standing there right there on the mound or going through some drills in the morning with them, communicate with them. And on their end, the player's end, not just, of course, looking at it selfishly on our end for recruiting purposes, but on the kids' end, you get the same thing out of us.
Right.
So as opposed to you showing up, like I know, Matt, you would know, like Leighton used to talk about this all the time. Like you're so nice to kids in the recruiting process. Not that he's mean to people, but so nice. And like you're telling them how beautiful they are in the recruiting process. Then they get here and they screw something up for the 50th time. And I have to raise my voice and they're looking at me like, oh my God, why are you mad at me? 6 months ago, you're recruiting me and you're telling me I'm the best thing ever. So if you're at camp, you're going to see how we really coach.
Yeah.
Right? And I agree. I feel like too many people, don't really understand the camp. Like if you're at that level and you're, like you said, you're able to hit with the hitting coach in the cage, if you're good enough, you're going to get recruited. And I feel like that's what, people don't really realize. And you brought it up and, just in my experience with it, like people don't realize how many emails you really get a day from student athletes that you have to weed through. So like all I tell my kids, just like you're saying, is make it concise. Put everything on one email where they know, it's SAT scores, it's transcripts. You have the video. It's easy. You can go back to it. It's not, 8 different emails because, listen, they need to know, you guys have a life too, and it's not just getting back. And, if a kid sends you an email without a video, are you really going to respond? You know what I'm saying? Like if you have 80. So, guys, please be proactive, the camp stuff with the emails, the videos, everything like that. I think that was awesome, Jimmy.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And we have one non-serious question for the Murata Money question. So, favorite bus movie, favorite road movie that you guys will watch on the road?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, we put on Friday, and most of the guys didn't really didn't know it. Didn't some guys are sitting there like, what is this? What is this, 1970? I'm like, it's not.
Now, wait a second. Who gets to choose the movies? Is it the seniors?
Sometimes AG will hop up there and just grab one, our hitting coach, and say, I don't care. I'm putting this in. I want to see it. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes Coach Ike is sitting there going, hey, I don't know if we should watch this.
Oh, my gosh.
To be honest, though, I mean, anything like that when I was growing up, funny movies I think are good for the bus, but I'd prefer to watch some more baseball movies, but for some reason, I think the guys are baseball out and don't want to watch baseball movies.
God. Jimmy, I'll give you a perfect example. We're going up to the regional probably 3 years ago. We're going up to New Hampshire, like 5-hour bus ride. So the kids want to watch Miracle, and we watch Miracle. They're all hyped up. And then we have 2.5 hours left, so they play it again. So we end up watching Miracle again on the way there. Thank God we won game 1. It was an interesting tactic by them, but they were so fired up they just didn't want to lose it, so they watched it again.
Oh my gosh, Maddie, can you quote the line from Miracle, the big speech?
I think you'd be better at quoting it, dude. You're the movie quote guy. Give the people what they want.
I haven't watched it in a while, but I was watching Wedding Crashers last night, which is definitely. You know what? I got to go with the comedy to keep me up there in this Corona right now.
Give us a Wedding Crashers one. I know that's your favorite.
Jesus. I mean, Hot Route's a big one for me. I'll talk to the wife. Hot Route. Jimmy, I mean, I know me and Jimmy and Datoma cracked and Coach Layton cracked a lot of jokes at Fordham. It's just a shame. Like, it's so long ago that I can't even remember some of the things we used to even laugh about.
I guarantee a lot of it was movie quotes. I know we do it here.
Oh, my gosh.
He knows a lot of them. I know a decent amount. Our head coach is, he knows a little bit.
The only thing that is literally engraved in my mind, it's burned in it, is me and Datoma would always do the Peyton Manning. We'd go, chicken parm, you taste so good. And Datoma's voice it's phenomenal. It's fantastic.
I think I have Datoma's voice stuck in my head for what's that TV show he watched? That Family Guy. That's the cartoon.
I was gonna say Goodfellas.
He quotes that stuff, but he quoted Family Guy like once a day, and I never watched it. So I'm like, what are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I can't wait to interview Datoma on Thursday. But Jimmy, thanks so much, man, for taking the time. I know you got your compliance meeting coming up, but to be able to do this for the kids and stuff like that, and help me out and Maddie out, it means a lot. So. Man, I wish if we have time, me and Maddie got to fly out. And if you're ever here, man, hit us up. For sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely will, for sure.
Jimmy, thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, of course, man.
Wife and kids are good?
Yeah, everybody's good. Everybody's healthy, so we're good.
Awesome, man. Say hi to everybody, and I'll be in touch. I'll give you a call later.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Jimmy.
Later, Jimmy.
Bye.